Welcome back to Super Power Bros. It's Dennis here, and I'm going to show you today a really cool deck profile I made for Monkey D. Garp. He's one of the newest guys from the latest set. He's half black, half red, with the power of giving a leader of one of your guys, if they're given a Dawn at any time, you get to give an opponent's character with a cost of 7 or less, -1 cost. So that'll leave it for the ready for any of your guys with effects to KO things. So for those few Garp players that are out there, I want to show you this build of mine, or if you want to start to make a Garp deck, this is going to be a really great place to start. So let's take a look at what he can do. Without further ado, we're going to start with 4 of Suru. So she has an effect that on play, you give a guy -2 cost. That is good for the fact that the leader effect only covers up to 7 or less. So then if you fight an opponent's character that has 9 cost, some of those big guys, you play Suru, then you get to build up on Garp, then eventually KO it with your Sakazukis or Kobe or other Garp characters. So 4 of hers, and if you don't need her for that, she's a 2k counter. Definitely got to play 4 of hers. Super good card. Next up, already with some reds, I'm playing 3 of Nami. This is the one that just moves Dawn that's rested onto another character. Her effect, it gives and moves Dawn, and then it'll trigger off Monkey D. Garp's effect to make it a lot easier. So definitely a really good card to play. I found the room for 3 of hers. Some combos with her include to just move Dawn, and then something like Kobe will be active much quicker than usual. Up next, I have 3 of this Rosenate blocker. He's just a 1k in the hand as well. But we're playing a few blockers. I guess 3 of the smaller ones. Nothing special about him. And this guy, I really like him. This is Garp Jr, as I like to call him, the smallest Garp. He costs 2 and he has a 2k counter, which is not bad in the hand as well. But with Dawn 2, you get to KO a guy that has a cost of 0. And with your leader effect, you'll be making guys' costs be reduced very easily. So by the time you give him a Dawn or 2 Dawns just to use his effect, you can already reduce the character's cost that's already 2 into 0. And then he kills it. So very good card for the beginning early game combos. Up next, I'm playing 3 of Sengoku, another 2k counter. He has an effect of give him a Dawn, attack, give a guy -2. So he just further cost reduction. He's not the greatest. I just, for some reason, found him better than this girl, Tashigi. I chose not to play her and I put him instead, because I feel like Tashigi costs more to play. But to your own preference, this can easily be swapped in for that. I'll just mention that right away. So I put 3 of him. Next, I got Nico Robin. Nico Robin's really cool. Of course, I play her because it is a half red deck and she's one of the better red cards to play nowadays. She is super good against the Law matchup and against the Zoro matchup, which are very popular decks. It comes up so often to kill a guy that's 3k power or less. But if you verse any other decks that don't play too many low power characters, just discard her as a counter and protect your leader or something. 3 of hers. Up next, the MVP of the deck in my opinion. It's got to be Mr. Kobe over here. On play, you trash a card, KO a guy that costs 3 or less. You can make everything cost 3 or less because of your leader's effect. So easy and so cheap and fast to make. He's the one that you want to see in your hand anytime that you're gonna mulligan. If you see at least one of him in opening hand, I say keep it. He's the most important card in the deck by far. He can combo off with Suru, with Sengoku. So many cards that reduce cost in this deck. Definitely powerful. Up next, I'm playing just 2 of this Smoker card. He's the 3 cost for 4k power, and he's not killed by effect, so he's got that going for him. And then when attacking, he gets 2000 plus power if there's a guy with a cost of 0. And again, Garp is going to make everything cost less. So if your opponent has one of those decks with a weenie searcher on the board that they stay there forever, like purple with Hannibal, you have greens with Bonnie or Momo, you make them 0, and this guy gets a free 2k power. And of course the red decks, it'll always come up. Next, the greatest blocker in the whole game. One of the best black cards that is out right now. It's Borsellino. He cannot be killed by effects, and he gains 1000 power on the opponent's turn. It's just a blocker. Super powerful card. You must play for this in any black deck that you ever make, I feel like. Too important not to play F4. Up next, I'm using only 2 of Kuzan, the 4-drop. On play, you get to draw a card. When attacking, you do -4 on a guy. That comes up when you need to KO one of those really large characters that are not 7 or less for Garp's effect to start off with. but I just found room for 2 of him. I only play him if I don't see Borsalino. That's why I chose to play him only at 2, but the draw power is really good. In this deck, by the way, you want to always go second. That's what I felt is better for this deck because you have a lot of 2 cost, 4 cost, 6 cost characters in the deck. So by the second turn, you should always be able to play a Borsalino or a Kuzan. Up next, a card that's, this one was from the structure deck. It's the big Garp. He main effect, activate main, trash a card from your hand and rest him to KO a guy that costs 4 or less. He is, like people say, a weaker version of Sakozuki, but the thing that he has over Sakozuki is that he can keep working every single turn. If you protect him once, you get to do his effect twice. So that's pretty much what he has going for him. And again, with the Garp leader, it's a lot better in this deck because he'll reduce cost of things. So reaching 4 costs or less than an opponent is going to be easy in this deck. So I put 2 of him. Next is the actual Sakozuki. I chose 3 of him. Still one of the most powerful cards in the black decks. On play, you just trash a card, KO something that is 5 or less. Again, with the Garp leader, everything will be 5 or less. Super easy to knock out anything. Very strong card, and then the next turn you attack for a solid 7. And the last character card that I'm playing will be 3 of Edward Newgate. This guy is one of my favorite newest red cards. So on play, you get to give the leader 2000 power. That is for 2 total turns, so it's really good on these half-colored decks because he will let your leader be 7k for the next turn. As you are already only playing 4 life, it's hard to stay alive as it is. So by late game, if you get to play him, it's really strong. I like playing him even if you see him a lot. 2 of them back to back is still very strong because the next turn, you're attacking for 10k and your leader will be attacking twice for 7. So that's your boss card for the deck. I chose not to play the 10-drop Kuzan because I feel like the leader's job already reduces everything's cost, so it's not that important. So I chose to go with Edward Newgate for a more harder push. And him being 9-drop, by the time you have 10 Dawn, you get to have 1 Dawn up for cards like this. Radical Beam, super strong in a deck that only has 4 life because you're going to get 4000k power just for resting 1 Dawn. Super strong. I love this red card in almost all my other red decks, so you gotta play him in this one too. Next, I'm playing 4 of this card, the Meteor Volcano. KO a guy that costs 1 or less. That is so easy to do with this leader, reducing the cost of everything. You just get to cheese them with this and just knock out anything that you want. And the trigger, super strong. Draw 2, discard 1. Always activated if you see it in the life. Why not get the hand advantage? For this, last 2 slots that I got is going to be Shockwave. Shockwave, powerful card. It's going to be 2 costing on the counter. You get 4000 power and you get to KO an active guy that costs 3 or less. I put 2 of it because sometimes your opponent doesn't have things that cost 3 or less that are active, so it won't come up as often as the other event cards. Trigger though is pretty damn good. If you see it in the trigger, it's like that jet pistol card in the old red decks. Very strong to happen from the triggers. The event cards are all interchangeable if you want to change up ratios. If you want maybe less Meteor Volcano, you could do 2 less of this for more Shockwaves. Alright, that's the full deck profile. I'm going to actually spread them out for you so you can see the ratios a lot easier and then give you suggestions on other cards you may want to swap in or swap out for. Alright, now here's a full deck profile with ratios and everything in sight, except for this horrible glare here. That would be Radical Beam at 4 under the nasty glare. And besides that, I've got some cards I want to mention that you might want to consider adding or changing up if anything here you really hate or just don't feel like works well with you. One of them is this Isuka character. Why is my screen blurry? There we go. Dawn X1, you get to battle a guy. If you kill it, you set him as active again, so she gets to attack twice if your opponent blocks something with her or whatever. Her, I was considering to play instead of my 3-drop Smoker there. That's the only card I really want to swap out for a fellow 3-drop. It only makes sense. But yeah, her, something to consider. And I mentioned earlier, the 3-drop Tashigi. She is another 2k counter and an effect that'll reduce the guy's cost. Same reason for Sengoku, so I would only replace Sengoku for her. I decided to not play her instead of that. And here's another card that I was looking at that I'm not too sure about, but maybe you can find a place for it. It's this promo Luffy, 3-drop 3k and a 2k counter. So with 2 Dawn, you get 2000 power. Attaching Dawn effects is what I've been looking for to match with the leader, because the more you attach Dawn, the more you get to trigger off the leader's effect. So not a bad choice. He becomes really strong at that. Maybe you think Nico Robin is too slow to be playing nowadays. That's another choice to put in for her. Besides him, the very last card I was looking at is Smoker. This is the 5-drop 7, and his cannot be killed by effects, which is pretty neat. And if he has Dawn, you get to have double attack if it's a character with a cost of 0. And since the leader makes everything low cost, you're going to have 0 cost guys on the field quite often. So this double attack can come in quite often. So he's something that you might want to take on other boss cards. Maybe you hate Edward Newgate. Maybe you hate the Monkey D. Garp or the Sakazukis or the Kuzans. Just another option to throw in there. It's this guy. And, oh, that's right, I forgot about this card that I do not own. I'm going to put it up in the screen. It's called Great Eruption, I believe, or something like that. And it's a card that lets you draw and gives minus cost to a guy. It's an event card. It's something that you might want to swap out for some of these other events that I chose to play, which they might be the Meteor Volcano, if anything. But besides that, that's the full deck profile. And I hope you like it and try it if you will. Make sure to like, subscribe, and all that stuff for more content. We'll be doing more deck profiles and different content soon. Thank you.